I am currently on my year abroad in Berlin. I'm filming this over the Christmas break, so I'm back in the UK at the moment. I feel like since being in Germany, I've been feeling really homesick, and I guess I was kind of confused about why I was feeling homesick, because I haven't ever really felt like one place is my home, and I realised that I was feeling more homesick for the people rather than a specific place. So it kind of got me thinking about like home and identity and how people relate to their home, and whether people think of home as being more the people or the place. I love being in Oxford. Like, I think Oxford's such a pretty place. I feel like it's the perfect place to be. It gets a lot of energy and it's very busy in the centre, but then you can go to Port Meadow and it's super pretty and calm. And I also really like that it's quite small and you kind of bump into people all the time when you go into town. For me, it's definitely more the people rather than the physical place, because at some point in the future I'm going to move away from uni and move away from Oxford, and that's no longer going to be my home. But the people who I went to uni with, I feel like whenever I meet up with them, I'm always going to feel calm and grounded and happy with them. Basically, I don't really feel like I have one home, and I think that kind of comes from like having moved around a lot when I was younger and lived in different places. So I feel like I've never really felt super grounded in one place, and I felt like every time I would move to a new place, I would always be like talking about the other place that I lived in and be like, oh, back home, back in that place. But then you kind of move on from that, and I feel like things that you're always changing. I feel like when I move on from university, Oxford's no longer going to be my home unless I live there. It's not just like the places that you live in, it's all the experiences and memories that you have there and the people who you had them with, because I feel like you could bring your group of friends to a whole new place and then that would be your new home. And that's why I decided to do all these interviews.
My name is Lexi. I'm from Australia and I'm 21.
Ich bin Lars Müller, ich bin 28 Jahre alt, ich komme ursprünglich aus dem Rheinland.
My name is Yadra, I'm 11 years old. I live in Berlin, but I was born in New York. My name is Naveen, I'm 9 years old and I live in Berlin.
Hi, I'm Isabel, I'm 22 and I'm from Worcestershire in England and I'm currently living in Berlin.
Ich bin Lilith, ich bin 20 und ich bin von Berlin.
I'm Tom. I'm 20, I'm going to be 21 soon. But I'm from Stoke, but I live in Crewe.
My name is Gideon. I'm from London and I'm 21.
I'm Zav, or Xavier St. John. I'm 21 years old, newly, because birthday was the other week, and I'm from Ely, which is in Cambridgeshire, and it's just outside Cambridge.
I'm Ellie, I'm 20, and I'm from London, but my mom's from Ireland and my dad's from Bangladesh.
Wenn man so alt ist wie ich, also 90, dann sieht man es ein bisschen rosiger wahrscheinlich.
A guy on the street asked me where I was from and I said United Kingdom, and he was like, oh, where's that? And he had a tourist thing as well. I think he was a scammer. that was what I deduced. He was like, and what language do they speak there?
As I've grown up, I've definitely changed like how I would identify myself. I would always say that I'm like from London. When I was very young, there was a thing in school that if you were Irish, it was a big deal, so I made a massive deal about being Irish, and my grandma basically brought me up and she was Irish, and I would kind of define myself that way. And because they were very Irish and they were very anti kind of being English, being seen as English, being perceived as English, I didn't want to feel like I was English. And recently I've been feeling a bit like I'd like to find out more about my dad's side, so then Bengali side.
If you were to give a definition to home, what does it mean to you?
I think home predominantly would be like a feeling.
Ein Gefühl, dass du dich richtig wohlfühlst, dass du so richtig angekommen bist, einfach da, wo du gerade sein solltest.
A place where my friends are and I feel safe, where most of the people are that I love.
It's a mixture, isn't it? It's an imagined ideal in your head, the same as anything else. But it's a place, but it's not just a place. It's emotions, and you go down a certain street and you have memories of various places. It's memories, really.
Maybe where you feel like nostalgia.
The best way I could describe it is think about a pub, right? A pub after 11 is empty. There's not there. The lights turn off. It's just a building with beer in the cellar. But like you go in at like 8 on a Saturday night and it's even full of people laughing and chatting and stuff like that. And you can't really separate the two. You know when people are always like, oh, if these walls could talk. That's what it is really, except they can talk because you've been there and you have all these memories of the place. So
It's kind of your protective area. Like, you live in it, you eat in it, you do everything like in your home, like, except riding a bicycle. That would be maybe too chaotic. Except if you would have a big indoor yard.
Because this weirdly comes up a fair amount, because obviously I have split parents, right? So homes, I have technically have two. Home is the place where you feel safest and most secure, and you kind of just intuitively know where it is. You will be talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to go back home, blah, blah, blah. It just kind of slips out when you're talking, right?
Einmal bei uns hier ja auch immer debattiert wird, je nachdem auch wie man zu seinen Eltern steht, zu seinen Vorfahren steht.
Most of my family is not from Britain, so I don't really feel a strong ancestral connection to the land.
Wo man Wurzel hat, da könnte man ansetzen, finde ich, Heimatgefühl zu entwickeln.
Do you think it's more the people or the place?
Probably the place. If home was like the people, then it sort of makes it meaningless. Like, what do you mean? Like, my friend is my home? That doesn't make sense.
Probably the people.
It's like the friends and the people that really matter.
You can't separate them really. If you tried to separate them, you'd lose something, wouldn't you?
Die Leute, auf jeden Fall. Ich war vor kurzem mit einer Freundin nochmal in Lissabon, in Portugal. Und es war eine super schöne Zeit und ich habe es auch super genossen mit ihr. Aber ich hatte richtig Heimweh, weil ich halt nicht mit meinen besten, engsten Leuten da war. Also ich war früher dieses Jahres war ich auch in Portugal, war mit meiner besten Freundin da, meiner Mitbewohnerin. Und ich hätte da ewig sein können, so, weil ich halt mit ihr war und das hat mein Zuhause mitgebracht. Aber mit der anderen Person, mit der ich das nicht so stark verbinde, da vermisse ich meine Leute einfach so sehr, dass ich dann doch wieder nach Hause möchte. Und das ist aber viel mehr mit den Leuten verbunden, als wirklich damit hier zu sein.
I now like cars because all my mates are into cars. Couldn't give a shit before.
Smell and place.
So I'd say I sit probably in the middle, maybe leaning more towards the community. Back in Ely, I'm an only child most of the time, right? I get very, very bored and very, very lonely. And I really notice it when I go back to Ely after staying here for ages. Because here you're constantly inundated with people.
The smell? What do you mean the smell?
Every house and every place has a different smell. Like you smell always something different. If it's something new, it smells new. If it's something old, it smells old.
I just like that home is like a real kind of sense, and it's hard to like actively put it into words. But you know, when you just feel like even sometimes getting off the train, coming back from Oxford, even if it's for a day or something, I always feel like the minute I go onto like a tube or something, I can just breathe a little bit better.
Do you think there's any stereotypes that exist about British people? What do you think are actually true?
Well, I think that one about them drinking lots of tea is bollocks.
The immediate thing that hit me was like, oh, polite, because it's the massive stereotype, right?
I think British people are quite awkward, saying sorry all the time. There are a lot of social niceties, aren't there, that we get caught up in.
I say sorry too much. I apologise to someone where they poured scalding hot tea on my foot. I feel like that's quite British to be quite like non-argumentative.
It's interesting really, because it almost devalues the word sorry.
Yeah, I think people think British people are very polite, and we are very polite. On the whole, British manners are exceptional. Especially in Spain, I think in mainland Europe as well, like people can be very respecting of authority. And the British really don't respect authority very much, but also have immense respect for like cultural like norms and traditions. It's like things are done the way they're done because that's the way they're done, and often that works very well. It's like you say your please and your thank yous and you don't make eye contact on the tube. It creates a society that is like in large part very harmonious.
We are super polite and say sorry for everything, for things that we haven't even done ourselves. If they're not actually British, they're like, why are you like saying sorry? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm British, that's what we do.
The same word in the British language that's used if you like bump into someone is also the one that you'd probably use if you'd like run someone over.
Like being emotionally unavailable, it's like cold. That's very true as well.
I think a lot of us are all socially inept, to be honest. It depends on class.
You meet these people from other countries and you're like, wow, they're so expressive. They're like so happy or they're so angry. Like those might be true as well, but like maybe different countries have like different emotions they're more comfortable expressing. But in Britain it's like a general, like there aren't really any strong emotions that are acceptable to express in like, you know, civilized company. You know, my grandma wouldn't like that.
Apparently a lot of people from like Spain and like France think we're all like extremely like frigid, if you know what I mean, and sort of like awkward and like not able, not comfortable in their own skin. And I think there is truth in that in many ways.
Deutsche immer so pünktlich sind zum Beispiel, passt zu mir sehr gut. Ich kann zum Verrecken nicht zu spät sein, auf keinen Fall, ich bin 10 Minuten zu früh überall. Aber ich kenne auch ganz viele Deutsche, die gar nicht so sind.
I feel like sometimes Germans can get a little bit of a bad rep for being kind of cold, but when you get to know them, they can be really lovely people and like someone you would meet in Australia, for example.
Direkt sein ist, glaube ich, auch ziemlich verbunden mit Deutschen und das sehe ich auch voll. Also, dass man einfach wirklich sagt, was einem im Kopf ist und du sprichst einfach aus. Aber meistens bleibst du noch höflich. Also du wirst nicht unbedingt gemein.
All these factors that determine your identity, they're so unstable, so unstable, and a lot of people, they're insecure, I think, and they are trying to build their identity from different factors.
I think a lot of time there are some British people who are like, staunchly, I'm British, you know, I'm not buying a BMW. But I think they make a caricature of themselves, you know. It's like nationalism. I realised how like sort of constructed it is really. It's a concerted, conscious effort about identity and self-representation.
Stamps and these informations that you put to your character, they're basically fake once you get behind it, you know.
Am Ende des Krieges war ich 13 Jahre alt.
What makes you think that it's valid, you know, to determine your whole presence as a human being to like one character trait or a few character traits? What makes you think that this is valid?
Das war ja Nazi-Zeit und Krieg und das war die deutsche unendliche Schuld. Und vielleicht sind wir deshalb auch ablehnend daraus, Identitäten anerkennen zu wollen.
I think there's a friction between a natural sort of identity or just something that exists without even thinking about it, and then sort of like an imposed kind of like set of like beliefs that you're very conscious of. You know, like the example being my cousin just saying leather because it's just how he's learned it off the internet, and me being like, what are you bloody, where are you from, Boston or something?
Und dann kommen immer die falschen Leute an die Spitze.
When you're always chasing a personality and always chasing character traits, and you're always trying to defend and hold on to like what you think is so safe for you and is so stable, then you will never be at peace.
Die Nazis und ihre heimattönenden Geschichten. Deutschland über alles. Das ist endlich aus alten Köpfen nicht wegzubringen.
Vor allem in Berlin passen deutsche Stereotypen nicht so stark, weil es super viele Leute gibt, die nicht deutsch sind. Es gibt super viele Menschen mit anderen kulturellen Hintergründen oder anderen, wo auch immer sie herkommen, oder Kinder, die verschiedene Elternteile aus unterschiedlichen Kulturländern haben etc.
Da hatte ich noch keine Lust, hier nun da so alles zu analysieren, was war das eigentlich für uns. Und da kann ich auch nur sagen, das dauert.
Especially like in the south, it's nothing that's massively different, but it's just a lot of different things. You know, people not saying hello to you on the street.
Ob man sich da zugehörig fühlt oder nicht.
I don't know if it's necessarily a case of friendliness or not, but I've always said that where I live, people will interact with you in public. It might be, hello, nice to see you, or it might be, oh fucking hell, he's got long hair, you know, you fucking grebo. Some like 12-year-old kid in his bike, or you know, his older brother in his Corsa in the Mackey's car park. In Whitty, when I go to the pub, you know, we've known the publican now for like 3 years. He sometimes gives us free pints and that. We always give him a card when it's Christmas. It's quite sad he's leaving.
Travelling to this country a few times has shown me that we're all kind of the same in some ways as well. I think when you travel, the world kind of feels smaller.
There is like a cultural divide, and like, you know, you sit down at dinner and there's a bunch of like Spanish people discussing in Spanish, like mysticism and astrology and stuff, and saying things that are like racist or like COVID denier-y and conspiracy theorist-y, and like in a language that I can't interact with. So it's like you just sit there at the table and you're like, these people are like culturally very different. Like they believe in completely different things to me, and I can't even participate in the conversation. It's just a very strong sense of othering.
I found it kind of easier now to connect with people that have moved abroad at some point during their life, because I think you have an understanding of of each other, so you know what it's like to move to a country and know no one and know nothing about it, and not even necessarily like be able to understand what's going on if you don't speak the language. So you've kind of gone through similar struggles maybe, and then that kind of connects you more. Like people who've lived in the UK the whole time sometimes like have a smaller kind of view of the world, like a small kind of bubble, I guess, that they look at, and it's some things that can be important to them are not necessarily important to you anymore because you look at everything on a wider scale. So I think it definitely affects like relationships.
But you clearly enjoy traveling and experiencing different cultures.
I don't know if I do. When I'm here, you get dissatisfied with life, and it's like, well, maybe if I go traveling, you know, I'll be able to do all these cool things, and like you can dream about it and think about it. And then you get there, and the reality is that actually, like, home is probably nicer. I think the idea of traveling is something that appeals to me more than the actual practical, like, sitting on long bus journeys and like feeling out of place, find your hostel, it's late at night, like you have to carry your bags, like trying to make friends with people who like you're never going to be friends with past like the next 4 days.
I think it's again one of those things about romanticism, or like going to live abroad sounds so awesome, where you get to, you know, like wake up in the morning with your bruschetta and your tomatoes and your mozzarella but realistically it'll probably just be like similar-ish to the UK. The people are slightly different, but you'll get used to it, and there's a different language. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, that sounds like good fun, but it's not going to be this beautiful, dreamy thing that realistically is what I think it is.
I don't know who wrote it, but he goes on for quite a while about like the call of the sea. And it's like sailors go to sea, and it's like some people just like feel the pull of the sea, and they get on these ships, and it's horrible because it's like the 1800s of being on a whaling ship or any kind of ship is just disgusting, and like hard work and poor food, long hours, you're away from your home and your family, your children, whatever. But then they just keep doing it. I think it's a similar kind of thing. It's like you're at home and you want to be away, and then you're away and you want to be at home. But at least in my case, I think wanting to travel is a symptom of like some other thing. It's not really to do with the travelling, it's to do with like a sense of unease or like wanting things to be different.
I like where I live. I tell you what, I actually like living at home as well. Really? It's great. Yeah, my mum does nice food. You know, like my house is quite small, but I don't like big houses. A bit lonely, aren't they?
Every single second of every day you are reminded that like nobody is there for you. Like if something bad happens, you're on your own. Like if something good happens, there's no one to tell. So it's like, it really highlights that sense of like separateness. And like I think that's really the source of a lot of the uncomfortable experiences that I've had travelling by myself. Whereas when I'm travelling with someone else, the aloneness is not quite so vivid.
I've got a cat now as well. Agamemnon the cat. I like my dad as well, you know, with my mum and dad. You know, watch telly with my dad, get on the pints, and I've got mates at home. I'm quite happy living where I am, really.
I'm worried that if I were to go abroad, I might struggle to find the shitty food because everyone has better cuisine than us. And that's something I kind of miss, because although it's shit, it's comforting because it's my shit. Does that make sense? It's like, you know, it's the shit that I grew up with, so I kind of like it now.
I brought Vegemite over with me, so I don't miss that.
Yeah, being able to watch the makeup without VPN.
I just feel like I know where I am, and I feel kind of grounded by the people in the place.
But you don't have to have all these different complicated facades up. You can just be like, yeah, I'm me, and whilst that might not be like the most interesting version of me because I'm not putting on this big thing, it's me, and the people don't mind it, so it's good enough.
I'm just thinking like us lot at uni, the times when I feel like I've had the best time and I feel the most sense of community is usually when everyone's a bit tired and we just go and cook together, and then we all just sit and chat for a while and we complain.
I don't want a job with lots of money. I just want enough so I can get by, have enough to keep me in beer and fight.
Toleranz, glaube ich.
I like novels because then you always feel not that welcome. Like, I want to feel welcome, but not that, because I don't really like people who are so nice.
I think a sense of like communal selflessness, or like putting the like whole above the parts almost, and having a sense of like allegiance to the community. So it's like you do good things for other people because of your like shared identity.
Usually when we kind of have like mildly manic conversations where everyone's a bit stressed, I don't know, I feel like that's like quite a nice bond where everyone's being like honest and just like kind of mutually kind of propping each other up. I don't think a community has to be defined by big things like everyone believing the same like thing or being very similar in every single way. I think a lot of it is just that you have like a feeling of comfort around people.
I have been homesick, but usually it's for me mates. On occasion it's for like £3, 20 pints.
I don't know why the district line is very calming for me. I don't know why. But like, I don't know, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's a thing. I think it really is just a weird feeling, and that could extend to different moments and across different places. But I do feel like there is a genuine like sense in my chest where I feel at home. And like, I remember thinking about it at uni a while ago, just thinking that I actually do feel really at home here. And it was something stupid, like just walking like along on my own and like knowing where everything was and like feeling comfortable saying like hi to people and stuff like that. And I just felt like, oh, I feel like I do like kind of belong here, and this is kind of also my home, which was really nice. But yeah, I don't know how to put that into words. It's just a weird kind of gut feeling, kind of almost like calm, grounded, maybe. But yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
That's helpful.
That was beautiful. That was a work of art.
Oh yeah, wow. Obviously.